You are listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Rahul. Let's go! Hello, and welcome to Ace Comicals, episode number 50. And today I am joined by Just Ray.
Hey, Greg.
Yes, Leon's unable to join us today, and I'm barely making it, actually.
I think none of us are, we're all barely making it today.
I don't know if you can hear it in my voice at all on this recording, but I've been suffering with a cold for the past week, and I've had some time off work because of that. But I'm feeling better today, and I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and record an episode of Ace Comicals because I'm kind of on the other side of it now. I'm out of it, and I'm going back to work tomorrow. So, yay!
And what better way to lift your spirits than reading and discussing some comic books?
Talk about comics, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've been
specifically your spirits, not necessarily my spirits.
Exactly. I've been trapped between ill person dreams and comics all week anyway. That's what it's been, like, in some kind of like state of not being able to leave the house, only being able to like read comics and stuff. Not that that's a bad thing. and then like I've had some weird dreams as well, because like, I don't know, when I get sick I get weird dreams. I don't know if that's just me, if you've ever experienced that.
I think fever dreams are a common thing. Like, what kind of messed up fever dreams have you been having?
Oh gosh, I can't even like describe some of it because it's like, it's weird stuff involving advent calendars and cats and I don't know, just weird stuff.
I remember, like, I don't remember my dreams very often, but there was one fever dream that has never left my memory when I was like maybe 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I just remember like being like super feverish, really ill, being like looked after by my mum and dad, like in the downstairs living room, and just freaking out because I thought there was a giant PC, like a computer upstairs, and we needed to bring all the bits down, and I couldn't carry the mouse because it was like as big as a sofa. And I was thinking, how are we going to get it downstairs? Like, the monitor's huge and it's stuck in the attic. And like, this mouse, how am I going to get the mouse down without it crushing me? And I just remember like being really, really upset about it. And I don't know why that's always stuck in my head, just this giant computer that needed to go from upstairs to downstairs.
Thing that my brain used to do when I was a kid was warp perspective. So like, when I had fever dreams as a kid, like one of the fever dreams that stuck in my head was like the fact that this used to happen like every time I was ill, but like it would make the room huge and my bed and me tiny.
Yeah, I'd get that.
Yeah.
So like you feel like those forced perspective like shots in movies where you like the kid is right at the back of this massive headboard and the wall opposite your feet is like a mile away. Yeah.
But like the room's getting bigger and the carpet's like this sea of nails and I'm just like in the bed just like ugh. And then like the other one that I remember like vividly was being chased by a fire tornado, which is something that I will kind of bring up a bit later when I talk about one of the comics on my list. Yeah, I've not done an awful lot apart from read comics and play Mario. Managed to beat the story on Mario Odyssey, and I'm now doing like some of the post game stuff, collecting some extra moons, going around finishing off challenges and things like that. It's really good, and it's keeping me going, and hopefully it's going to last until Smash comes out, which will be next Friday, or the Friday after this episode releases.
God, that's soon.
Yeah.
So soon.
I know.
Like, I'm really looking forward to it, but I'm not entirely sure why. I think I'm just like on the hype train from you guys, because I've never played... I never owned Smash before. I never really owned a Nintendo console up until the Wii. And, there wasn't a Smash game on the Wii, was there?
Yes, there
was. If there was, I certainly didn't have anyone to play with at that time. Like,
since the 64, there's been a Smash game on every Nintendo console.
Okay.
So we had, bar handhelds, because we had Smash on the 3DS, and I think that's the first handheld Smash they did. But there's been Smash on the 64, which was the original one, Then there was Smash on the Cube, which was Melee, which is the one that everyone loves. And
that's the one that's highest rated.
Yeah. The one that's got the best mechanics as far as people are concerned, because it's the one the fighting game community adore. Then there's Smash Bros. Brawl, which was on the Wii. And then there was Smash on the Wii U. And now we're getting Smash Ultimate on the Switch. The Smash on the Wii U was the one that had like a kind of partner in the one on the 3DS.
Yeah.
And that one like was the first one that used the amiibos as well.
Oh yeah, I like the idea that you can like set up your amiibos with like rudimentary AI and then make them fight each other.
Yeah,
like your specific statue would have its own like personality, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, you can train them up, and I trained mine off each other. So like they get to like level 50 is like max level for an amiibo.
Right.
And that was the max level mine were at, like level 50. And like I used to put them in 99 stock matches against each other.
I just watch.
Yeah.
just let them fight it out. It's awful.
They used to like I trained one, and then like that one trained the rest. So they were like,
so, who was the top one? Who was your first amiibo?
I think it might have been Link.
Link could make a good general. Or
yeah,
like a good,
and then Link trained the rest, and now they're all completely unstoppable beasts.
It's like Gladiator. Yeah.
Because I just like the idea of AI training AI. So like they learned off each other, and
yeah, it's machine learning. Then
I've got like second and third generation AIs imprinted on these amiibos, which is weird. But it's just some kind of like weird experiment that I was doing at the time when amiibos came out, just to see.
Just imagine you in like a smoking jacket and like a glass of whiskey, and like the lights off, but the fireplace is roaring in the corner, and you're just watching like on your massive screen all your little amiibos play it out on screen.
Yeah,
I mean that was basically it, wasn't it? That's what you were doing.
Yeah, pretty much. I always had this one thing that I wanted to do with the amiibos as well, which maybe I'll get the chance to one day. But it was to invite people round, and you know how like you see in films sometimes they have these like underground fight clubs. Mm-hmm. Where you like two people fight and people place bets on the fight. Well, I wanted to do that with amiibos. Like I'd set up a card, put Smash on, and have people place bets in candy on amiibos.
If anyone could pull that off, it would be you, Greg.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, or like some kind of amiibo drinking game or something. I don't know.
Well, is that going to be the same thing on the Switch? Do you think, or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how the amiibos are going to work on the Switch. All I know is there is going to be amiibos because they've made amiibos of the new characters. So,
all I know is that everybody I know that is into games has bought a Switch, or who didn't already have a Switch has bought a Switch to play Smash.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to have like an FGC community thing, because like, the last time we tried that was with Dragon Ball FighterZ, and like we played for a little while, but because it was, I don't know, like getting on PC and then getting your stick out to play on PC and like organizing people to play on PC can be a bit tough. Whereas I think Switch, like even if we're not playing directly, I think there's like ghosts you can play against, and like the AI that you can build up on your amiibo, like you can have your own personal thing, right? Which you can battle against other your mates with. Yeah. And if there's, like you said, if there's matches and like videos that, or like gameplay videos that get recorded, I think it would be easier for us to watch each other's matches and stuff online on the Switch. We just pick it up, play for 10 minutes, and put it back down.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping something comes of this.
I do.
The reason I'm into it.
I'm hype for the fact that all my buddies are going to be playing Smash, and you're going to be playing Smash, and Leon's going to be playing Smash, and I'm going to be playing Smash, and we can all play Smash together. Like I was in the comic book store yesterday when I went to pick my books up, because obviously that was like the first time I'd left the house in like and gone further than the shop for milk. So like we was like talking to Matt in the comic book store, and I picked my books up, and he's like, oh yeah, he's going to get Smash as well. And like I was like, oh, I need to give you my friend code. So I'm going to have like, I'm hoping it's going to be like the Xbox Live days, fingers crossed, because I could do with some of that.
If Ninty sorts out their the online voice chat component of all of this, because that was the.
Yeah.
I was never online for the Xbox Live days because I was still a PC gamer around that time, or a PlayStation gamer. But I gather like the thing that Xbox made really easy was just jumping into a chat room where you can have your mic on and talk to people. Switch or Nintendo are making that really difficult. Like you have to connect your phone to the thing and then connect your headphone to your phone and then have your phone app open at the same time that your game is open or something. It's like it sounds really convoluted, and I think they've only done it so far with Splatoon. I think that's how they implemented it, and it's just a rigmarole. So
it does. It just sounds horrible.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to set up. Yeah, horrible. I think we're gonna have to set up like a Discord and have Discord Smash exclusive channel that's just on all the time that we can jump into when we're playing.
Have Discord running on your phone, and then chuck your just play through Discord. Do it that way. Yeah, that works. So yeah, Smash hype, and we'll probably talk about that on the next episode we do, which there's going to be a few things to talk about on that actually, because A, there'll be some more Christmas specials, B, there will be Smash Bros, and C, Spider-Verse will be out by then, won't it?
It will indeed. It'll be out on Friday the 14th of December, I believe, for both UK and the US.
Yeah.
And we should hopefully be recording shortly after that. So specifically because we want to record after we've watched Spider-Man. So.
Best thing about watching Venom was that.
Was that thing at the end of it? Yeah. 100%. Like I think it was worth sitting through that movie. I mean, I think I talked about it on the cast before. It had its moments. I didn't hate it. I was glad that I went with Marvin, a mutual friend of all of us, who is a really fun person to go to the cinema with sometimes because he has no qualms about shouting at the screen. And yeah, we had a good time at the end, but sitting through all of that was worth it just for the Spider-Verse trailer.
Oh, so he's allowed to break the rules then?
I wasn't happy about it. I didn't give him permission, but he just went ahead and did it. You know? And I think we were all both in a place where we cared less about this film. And I don't know. I'm conflicted about this because even if it's a film that I don't care about, I feel like I should be quiet for it anyway. Yeah. But there were other people in the cinema not giving a shit. So we sort of just jumped on board.
Back to your fascist cinema state. Like, in the way fascist states work, there are always favourites, aren't there? There are always people that are allowed to, there's always like one above the others kind of thing.
It's that kind of fascism where as long as I'm in power, I don't mind because I can break the rules for whoever I want.
And, you can bring other people into your palace and they can live within the palace walls and, do the stuff that the other people aren't allowed to do.
Exactly. Like eat popcorn loudly and shout at the screen. I think I would still ban like individually wrapped sweets though, because that's just irritating.
You think I don't still ban those, yeah.
Yeah, because that's just taking it too far. Or like you'd have like I don't know, you'd have a shop outside where they would part of the service is to unwrap each sweet individually for you and then place them in like a little gold foil saucer for use for your consumption later. Or have somebody drop them in your mouth from high above.
Generalissimo Rahul overseeing his
Yeah, like at sports events where they have t-shirt cannons. Yeah. So what I want is at the bottom of the screen, like all shrouded in black, so they're not, obscuring the screen or anything, and they're not distracting. But like, if you open your mouth, they'll notice and they'll just like shoot a Malteser into your mouth, like just from the distance. Like they'll be perfectly trained to, to judge the weight and flying capacity and aerodynamics of all these different sweets. So. You could press a little button on your thing and then fire a Malteser on your mouth, or you could press another button and it'd be a Werther's Original.
You'd have to be careful because, like, the amount, like the choking hazard there as well. Like you've got to judge it correctly.
That's not my problem. No, I mean if people want to choke on the projectiles that they allow into their own mouths, then that's their problem, not mine. I don't know. These are just, it's all blueprint right now.
Yeah, this is Generalissimo Rahul is a thing now. Like
I'm fine with that.
You are a dictator. You are a military. You have established a military dictatorship in Cinematopia.
I was going to say, if you're going to call me a dictator, finish the word. All right, don't stop halfway. Don't call me a dick.
Just imagining you with your aviator sunglasses and your red beret.
Right.
Your little
I've never in my life worn either of those things. But
your military cinema uniform, overseeing your soldiers as they confiscate Werther's Originals from old people as they're walking into the film.
100%.
Yeah. At Super Soaker point, like, because let's face it, we don't need real guns. Super Soakers will do. No one likes getting wet.
No, I think I'd train them to use like Bart Simpson slingshots.
Yeah.
Silent, nothing mechanical, just quiet.
Yeah. So, I mean, what have you been up to in the last 2 weeks?
I don't know. I've been quite busy with. If anything, I've been up to a lot. I've been busy with work, which has been a constant thing since I started this new job. As for like non-comic-y stuff, what have I done? Been to a few gigs, many of which I went with Leon, which I think he'll want to talk about when he's back. And what have I seen? I saw Widows in the cinema. I've been playing a game called Crosscode, which is really good, which is like, it's a top-down RPG, but with action RPG elements. So it's not, all the battles are like real-time, so it's like kind of hack and slashy, but it harkens back to the old like Chrono Trigger days, and there's loads of references to old 16-bit games and stuff, and that's really cool. I'm quite surprised that I've passed the 10-hour threshold for that game, because normally my cutoff is between 5 to 10 hours. Like, even if I'm really enjoying something, if something else distracts me quickly, then I'll jump on that. But I've kind of been persisting with this one, so I want to try and actually finish it. And yeah, that's about it. I've got my pre-order, I've got my preload sorted for Smash. I've got my GameCube controller that I had from a while back, and I've got a GameCube to Switch adapter on its way, which should be here tomorrow, hopefully. So
you can preload Smash. What?
Yeah, I just did the preload from the eStore.
If I put my download code in, will it let me preload it?
Yeah, absolutely. Do that. Do it now.
Oh, man.
Because and also I think you'll get like double the gold coin points or something if you do it now.
Oh.
And yeah, it should be ready to play at midnight on Friday.
Nice.
Midnight on Friday or Thursday midnight?
Maybe midnight Thursday night to Friday.
Because it comes out out on the Friday, doesn't it?
Yeah, I already have my work schedule this week. I know what time I'm finishing on Friday, and it's like the best shift ever. It's my favourite shift, 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. So
we're going to be sprinting home like in the trailer for Smash, all just like hands out, grabbing each other. Yeah, should be good.
As I like make it into the shop and grab beer and.
Just like Sonic the Hedgehog, just like whizzing around as like a Greg-shaped streak, just like going around, like leaving an after image around.
But like Smash character trailer, so when we make it through the front door, Greg enters the battle, Rahul into the fray.
I love that trailer. I like the bit where like, I don't know enough of the characters because I was never a Nintendo fanboy growing up, but like a dude tries to jump in like an F-Zero car and then gets like blasted with light as he's diving into it. I want to be that guy, like diving into my car and then just be boom.
Yes. So, this isn't the Smash cast. We are here to talk about comics.
Move on, then.
Yes. So, this week, like I said, in between being ill and having weird dreams and like being in the house, I've been reading a lot of comics. I've done a lot of catching up. I've got through my stack, and I've been managed to get all my comics kind of organised a bit, as in bagged and boarded in a box instead of just in various piles around my loft. And I've read some really cool stuff this week. One of the things that I wanted to mention briefly was the fact that I picked up last week an omnibus edition of the Silver Surfer run by the Allreds and Dan Slott. Now, like anybody that listens to this cast knows that I love the work of Mike and Laura Allred, and their art style is really cool. It's like fun, poppy, it's punchy, it's like really like graphic pop art style that's just really cool with really bright colours. And this is just like awesome cosmic fun that you can just enjoy and just let it wash over you. And I've talked about this actual Silver Surfer creative team before anyway, and how great these comics were. And like, again, I just love the innocence of this thing. Like, its innocence in places and how it just makes me feel like a kid again, opening a comic for the first time. And like, all the silly offhand jokes that are in there and everything else, and just everything about it that's just bombastic and huge and expansive and grand. It's just this great pure space fantasy, and everything's exciting and different, and it's just great. It just makes me feel like a kid again opening a comic for the first time. Like when I read this, it's like everything that I loved about like stuff like that when I was a kid, about being able to open it and just like be like, wow, you know, and it being quite wholesome as well. It's just something that I just love about it, and it's great to escape into, and it's a really nice omnibus edition. It's this really nice hardback with this great wraparound cover by Mike and Laura Allred, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I'll run through a full list of credits because this is like, we're talking like a few years worth of comics here. This is an omnibus, so if I pick up this big heavy book and open it, I can give you a list of credits. So, Dan Slott and Michael Allred are your storytellers. Laura Allred is your colour artist. We have Clayton Cowles and Joe Sabino doing letters at various points. The cover art on this big edition is by Mike Allred and Laura Allred. Assistant editors Jake Thomas and Alana Smith, and we have an editor Tom Brevoort. So yeah, it's a great nice omnibus edition to pick up. I mean, it's not cheap. These kind of massive omnibus hardbacks never are, but it's worth every penny, you know. I love stuff like this. And,
yeah, I've just googled the wraparound cover that you mentioned, and it's really pretty. Like it's dense, and like this. Yeah, I can see what you mean about like feeling like a kid, because it's that whole, I don't know, Imaginarium dreamscape thing where there's just so many ideas stuffed into one rectangle. It's got everything. It's got action. It's got cosmic sci-fi. It's got love. It's got all these things. Everything you could ever want. It's like this awesome ball of science fantasy, and it's great. I love it. Yeah, I'm sold on it just from this wraparound cover that you mentioned. Like, I love all the different, I like recognizing all the characters that I've slowly come to learn about the Marvel Universe in the last like 10 years, and yeah, it's cool.
It does. Very cool. It has everything I love about Marvel at the moment. Like, my favorite Marvel stuff right now is the cosmic stuff. Like, I love I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, there's others. I mean, I just love comics, don't I? But like, everything about like the Marvel cosmic stuff is just awesome. Like the fact that they give physical form to things like Eternity, and have Eternity as a character that stands there and talks to you, kind of thing, and that kind of stuff I love. Like, yeah, it's not for everyone, but for me, it's great. Because it's out there and you can just melt into it and not have to think about anything else, and it's good for that.
Well, before you move on, just to say there's an amazingly high resolution version of this wraparound image on previewsworld.com.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to look it up, like I'm just clicking in and out of it while you've been talking. It's really cool.
There's a black and white version of it on Instagram somewhere as well.
Ooh, okay.
A pre-colored inked version of it.
Sweet.
That I saw earlier a few months ago on Instagram, and it is something else. I think it was on Mike Allred's Instagram, but it is something else. It's beautiful. So yeah, that was the Silver Surfer Omnibus, Anywhere and Everywhere. Hang on. And one of the other things I read this week is I read my first holiday special, because it's coming up to that time of year now. It's getting towards Christmas, and they're going to start printing these. I'm going to talk more about this on another episode when we get closer to Christmas, probably on the next episode we do. But I talked about the 80-page DC Nuclear Winter Special. Just the title alone tickles my funny bone. It's so, like, post-apocalyptic Christmas spirit. It's like my 4-word description of what these 80 pages contain. It's my first Christmas special of the year, and it did the trick of getting me into the Christmas spirit. like I say, the title alone is just fucking brilliant, and the idea of it, and I think it's like the overarching kind of idea I get from this is that it's to poke fun at the times that we live in now. Like, I mean, obviously it feels like the end of the fucking world when you watch the news, and you know, when you see what's happening in the world, and all the evils and all the wrongs and all the bad things that go on, like, in front of us every day. Like, everything you see is doom and gloom. Like, the world's falling apart. Something like climate change. The fact that no one's doing anything about climate change because they're rich old white people with grey hair that love oil that makes them money. And like all this kind of like horrible stuff, and the fact that, you know, like we are actually marching closer to the end of the world every day, and that's the impression you get from the news when you watch it and read it, and I'm sure you feel the same, right, Ray?
Often, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just me. But yeah, this book, it's like basically saying, yeah, it feels like the end of the fucking world, but there's still something worth fighting for, still something worth living for. And, you know, even in these really, really bleak times, you can find cheer, and you can find spirit, and you can find love, and you can find Christmas. You can find all those things that make Christmas great, and Christmas will still be there even after everything else is gone. Everything's crumbled, blasted away, bombed, nuked, irradiated, dead. There's still hope. And I think that's what this book is. It's like, even in the times we're in now, there is still hope, and there's still Christmas cheer. And I love it for that. Like, the fact that it's basically saying that even after the world's ended, there will still be these things, these feelings. You know, we will still have this time of year when everyone, you know, when there is peace, and when everyone thinks of giving and things like that. And it reminds me of that old that tale from World War One of the when the British and the German soldiers got out of the trenches and shook hands, exchanged gifts, and played football on Christmas Day. You ever heard that one?
I have, yeah. I was taught that at school.
Yeah. It gives me that. It's that kind of feeling, you know, like that. That's the kind of
the Christmas truce.
Yes,
I think it's called. Yeah.
Yes. And it's that kind of hope in these 80 pages. And I will probably I will talk more about this, and I will dig deeper, and I'll do my usual analysis, like when we get on to talking about Christmas comics, which will hopefully be next episode. I'll probably talk about a couple, but I really liked it, and it helped me get into the Christmas cheer a bit. You know, like I've been my girlfriend has put up some Christmas decorations this week. We've got lights up and things, and we got a tree yesterday, a fake one. But it's, you know, it's nice to have that stuff around, and it just makes you feel a bit better. And it's good for that. So yeah, I enjoyed that, the Nuclear Winter Special, and I'll go into that deeper and give you a full list of credits next time, because it's just a pretty expansive list, as these anthology type titles usually are. But yeah, it was really cool. Ray, do you want to go next for something you've been reading?
Okay, so I might as well talk about Ice Cream Man, because I finally caught up after, you know, months of you going on at me to get past issue number 4. So I'd read basically volume 1, which comprised of 1 to 4. I read them month by month as those issues came out, and then I just fell off the bandwagon. So I finally got round to reading all of them. And what the fuck is going on, Greg? Like, it's such a good story that layers on way more than I was expecting from just what the first volume delivered. Like, I like that it's more than just an anthology. It's like, it's building up some mystery behind this town that we're seeing these mysterious and violent acts happening in, and like we're finding out more about the players in the background, and we're finding more about this a slightly more mystical or larger battle at play, and it's so interesting. And then on top of or underneath all of that is these individual stories about misery and loss that W. Maxwell Prince is writing. And I don't know, my excitement for this book just hasn't dropped at any point. Normally I find myself I don't know, I get a few issues in and I'm like, well, I've had my fill of it, but this is just, I really want to see what else he drops in. So I'm thinking, I went back and listened to some of the other episodes where you talked about your, the ones at the time that you'd been reading and trying to urge us into doing it. And the one about the young girl who imagines her friend who has passed away, but, to be by her side. And there's some good writing in that episode, in that issue. I love it. I don't think I'm going to be able to say anything that you haven't already said. I don't think I'm going to be able to express any more excitement than the three of us have already expressed about this book. But if you haven't yet caught up to reading Ice Cream Man, if you like, I don't know, this pastel-y, multicolored, deceptively beautiful, deceptively clean version of misery and horror, I think you owe it to yourself to check out Ice Cream Man. And it's good timing because I think volume number 2, which collects issues 5 to 8, will be out on the 12th of December. So just in time for Christmas. So
it's also, I think they're on break now until after Christmas. I don't think there's going to be another one until, is it January?
I believe so, yeah. They're on hiatus for a while.
Yeah, it's in the back of the ambulance one.
Yes. Yeah,
Emergencies. Yes, issue 8. But I think they're going to be on break now until next year. So it's a good time to catch up, and it's a good thing to catch up on, actually, because it's really good. Really,
yeah,
really
I think this is the feeling I'm getting that you that you alluded to about Hill House, where you wanted to know more about the house. Like, I really want to know more about this town now. Now that I realize that there's more happening than just a collection of stories with the linchpin of this Ice Cream Man. I really want to see where they go with this mystery.
The way I'm seeing it is the town is like the chessboard.
Okay.
And like this is what I was, because we kind of had a little conversation about this last night on WhatsApp, and I was kind of describing to you like what I thought. So I'll just read out what I wrote.
Sure.
The Ice Cream Man is spreading misery and pain, and he's a metaphor for kind of like toxic thoughts. He is mental illness in different forms, and I don't think he's causing the tragic and horrific events himself. Like, he's making them happen in so much as he's providing a nudge or a push to someone who already has something dark inside them, and he's just bringing it to the surface and forcing it out. He seems kind of locked in some eternal struggle with someone who kind of represents the good, which I think represents the good in people, and I believe might have the ability to bring the good out in people, but we don't ever see that because the focus of the story is the Ice Cream Man. But I think we might be able to get a similar book with this guy making people do good things and making good things happen. I don't know.
I see it as like the Ice Cream Man's definitely an active antagonist. And what I like is that it's weaving in slightly more than I expected from this book. So stuff like there seems to be this running theme of the music and how that's represented, and like how there's such a thing as bad music, which he is putting out into this world, and letting it corrupt people, and then leading it to him, and kind of like I think the Pied Piper thing, which was something we brought up and is quite clear from like what the first couple of issues, but like I don't know, it's more than just a one note thing. It's like a thing that's being written and woven in again and again and again and expanded on, and I love that I think the term is like it's growing its beard, kind of like it's getting deeper than I anticipated, and I'm in love with that. Exactly.
I mean, like what I was trying to say about that, he is an active antagonist, but I think all he's doing is waking things up that were already there. Like that's the impression I get. Like he's just bringing that out in people, like providing the nudge, providing the music. That makes you dance in a certain way, kind of thing. But yeah,
it's interesting. It's a really good, I don't know. It's a really good representation of this kind of not story that's been told before, but like the whole thing of an evil entity and a good entity and that eternal struggle. I just love the fact that the representation is of this Ice Cream Man, like Ice Cream Man van guy. It's an interesting look, and I like the fact that it's so, I don't know, confetti rainbow coloured throughout the entire thing. I love it
to bits because I mean the artwork just makes it. Although I mean, like, I mean, I've described the artwork in various places at various times, in the way that it makes you feel uneasy, and it adds this kind of like queasy feeling to everything because it's hyper detailed and whatever else. But at the same time, it's unassuming, you know. And then all of a sudden, it just goes from 0 to 100, punches you in the face.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like hyper detailed, and then shocks you with these like sudden moments of violence and like grimness. But then also like the coloring is so unassuming. Like there's something like sinister and saccharine, but also like if the content wasn't horror, it could easily be something quite cutesy.
Yeah,
you know. And I think all of those elements come together really well without overpowering each other, and like that's that unease I think that they nail so well.
And there we go. All at once, just like that, you are back on the bus.
Exactly, yeah. Just chasing after that next scoop.
Yes. So, to build on that, I guess I'll move on to my next book. Do you want to give a list of credits for Ice Cream Man first, though? I mean, we've done it millions of times on the cast, but you should.
Yeah, I can do. I mentioned writing by W. Maxwell Prince, but also the art is by Martin Morazzo, colours by Chris O'Halloran, and lettering by Good Old Neon, and it's an Image published comic.
Yes. Next one is an Image published comic. One of the new number ones that I checked out this week. And this is called Middlewest. Now, the way that I will describe this is going to paraphrase the writer of the book, Scotty Young, and it's the ordinary, the mundane, but with magic just beneath, just lurking underneath. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to read out the synopsis. So, I mean, I think we've read this out on the previous episode during the pull list section, but the lands between the coasts are vast, slow to change and full of hidden magics. Mistakes have been made, and in this new ongoing series, an unwitting adventurer searches for answers to quell a coming storm that knows his name. From author Scotty Young of I Hate Fairyland and Deadpool, and artist Jorge Corona from Number One with a Bullet, Feathers and Big Trouble in Little China, Old Man Jack, comes the tale of Abel, a young boy who must navigate an old land in order to reconcile his family's history. And it's this kind of like kid on an adventure tale. I mean, again, I'm like pretty much just echoing what Scotty Young has already called it in his little piece of writing at the end of the comic, but it's really, really good. It's a beautiful first issue. The art is gorgeous and the colours are vibrant. It's bold. It's abstract. The cartoonish illustrations are perfect for this kind of story, and I just love the way the bold lines and the exaggerated expressions and shapes just get messages and feelings across with the characters, and the way that this whole thing is put together, where, I mean, everything looks completely normal. It just feels like a normal place, but at the same time, it's like just left of normal. Like, you can tell there's a little bit of magic there. There's a little bit of something going on, because it's not completely as our world is. And the art style helps with that, helps to push that. Also, like, the amount of personality in the character designs here is something truly beautiful. Like, you can imagine these kids and characters in real life after seeing their cartoon versions on the page. It's like you can bring them to life like that. It's great. And just from that comes some fantastic moments that give you a real true sense of what this book is actually about, and the way that you feel for this kid, the main character, Abel, and, you know, like, his relationship with his dad and the lasting effect that his relationship with his dad, that his dad will have on him, and the way that's represented and the way that's put forward in the writing and everything else, and in the artwork as well. Like the I'll say physical representation of that, like the mark his father's toxic anger and abusive behavior will leave on him. And that I guess is kind of like the axis of the whole book, is his relationship with his father and the way that makes him feel and the way his dad treats him, and the reason his dad is so angry and the reason his dad's anger is being taken out on the child, and like how this will affect Abel, I guess, going forward, and when, you know, throughout his adventures through the rest of this comic. And it's the world design and the character designs are just perfect for this type of story. It's like a fantasy adventure tale, and it does that really well. And it really the thing it communicates really well for me is the way the magic is represented, as in, you know, like it's like people aren't aware of it, but at the same time they are. So when things happen, it doesn't surprise them, if that makes sense. Like it's like you wouldn't think that magic would have such an everyday place in this world, but when you're reading the comic, it's like things just seem natural that shouldn't. Like the fact that there's a talking fox and no one bats an eye at this talking... Well, so far I think the fox has only spoken to Abel, but no one really bats an eye at this talking fox. Like, I'm sure people must be able to hear this fox, but no one really, other than Abel, but no one really cares. It's just a talking fox, you know. It's just something that happens in this world. And it's like, it's not overly magical, it's not overly bombastic or overly fantasy, but it's, you know, it's just a talking fox, a fox that can talk, and it's something that's just considered normal. And like, this is like represented really well in the animatedness of the world around, and the colours and everything else that they use here in this book, and the way that they design this world to... I mean, there's like these tanks of pink liquid on everything that seem to be some type of fuel. I don't know what this pink liquid is, but it's on like the side of everyone's house, like this like water cooler of pink liquid. And I don't know, like... That's interesting to me, because I know that's a design feature that's been put in when they've designed this world. I want to know what that pink liquid is, and I want to know why it's like that, and things like, you know, this kind of like, that's their fuel kind of thing. That's how they do it. Like, but there also seems to be electricity still and things like that, and it's just I want to know more about this world, and like the colour and the focus on the environment in some of the panels, and the animatedness of the world around that is shown in the panels, and especially wind. Wind is a central feature of the book, given that one of the main antagonist of the book is a storm. And the way they display that in the panels, in the animatedness of like blades of grass and things like that, everything just feels alive. And like you're looking at a living world through the panels. Like the panels are just windows into that world. It's not like you are actually seeing something that's alive and moving. And the way to describe this is, I mean, I know in other comics and things like that, like you get a sense of the environment and everything else from establishing panels and things. When you look at artwork, you can sort of like feel, hear and smell things, right? If you know, when you're reading a comic, that you get that impression that this is happening, that's happening, and this is what it would... You can hear cars rushing past and things like that when you see it happen in a panel, because like comics have the power to do that. But with this, like, first, actually, because it's actively displayed that there is wind and air and movement in the atmosphere, in the way that these are drawn, like I was saying, with like the way blades of grass are animated, and the way you can see things blowing and things like that, and the way wind is given sort of like special providence and centre place. For the first time, you're actually actively aware of the work that goes into creating something like that, and you're actively aware that these characters are not surviving in a vacuum, which, I mean, up until now has been an assumption and a blank space filled based on life experience and common sense when you're reading comics. But with the way they do it in this, you're actively aware that they're actively pushing that idea, and it's something new and interesting for me, and I really liked it. And the way that the character design for the storm itself, and the way the storm is drawn and everything. This is what when I was talking about fever dreams previously. and I was talking about being chased by a tornado of fire. Like the way the storm is represented in this just like brought that back for me, and I was like, wow. Yes, that's my nightmare. But like I truly did enjoy this book, and I think it's a great comic, and it's a great story. It's one that you'd especially enjoy, Ray.
Okay.
I've tried not to spoil it too much in my talking about it. I mean, I didn't want to dive too deep into the synopsis of issue 1, but it's a great opener for a truly fantastic story, and I am eagerly sitting at the campfire waiting for the rest. And that is Middlewest, and your creative team on Middlewest. We have Scotty Young for the story. The art is by Jorge Corona, who we know from Number 1 with a Bullet, which we've also enjoyed on the cast. Colours by Jean-Francois Beaulieu, lettering by Nate Pierkos of Blambot, and editor is Kent Wagenschutz, and it's production by Kerry Hall. We've also got some some variant covers. We got cover A by Mark Huddleston, which is a really pretty angular painted cover with the fox, Abel, and this menacing looking storm in the background reaching out for him. We also get to see Abel's house with this weird tank of pink liquid on the side of it, which I want to know what that's about. I mean, even the train going past in the background on the cover has got tanks of pink liquid attached. I wonder what this pink liquid is. Someone tell me what this pink liquid is. It's probably magic, but someone tell me what this pink liquid is, please.
Patience, Greg.
I know. It's exciting though. And yeah, it's just great. It's a great world they've constructed here, and it's a great story that's coming together. This sort of like adventure story with this kid Abel. I love it. I love the talking fox especially. Sassy talking fox. Yeah, Middlewest. So yeah, we the other two variant covers that I got lost in the first cover. The other two variant covers, we've got a cover by Jorge Corona and a cover by Scotty Young as well, which I haven't seen those yet. But the cover A, which is the one I've got, is really cool. Ray, next one on your list.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about These Savage Shores. I read issues number 1 and 2, and this is by writer Ramvi, who I talked about in the last episode to do with Graffiti's Wall. Illustrator Sumit Kumar, colours by Vittorio Astone, letters by Aditya Bidikar, who also did the lettering for Graffiti's Wall, and published by Vault Comics. And I'm really glad that I read both issues 1 and 2, because I think they go together really well to give you a good introduction into what this world and what this story is. But I don't think I want to say too much. I think I want to read like the first arc or the first volume before I dive into too much about my thoughts. But like, let me just say overall, I really like what this is about. If not necessarily, I really like the setting, and I really like the characters, and I really like the story it's telling, but not necessarily the narrative it's telling, if that makes sense. So let me go back and I'll read out the synopsis from the website. So, These Savage Shores. 2 centuries after the first European ship sailed to the Malabar coast and made landfall at Calicut, the East India Company seeks to secure its future along the lucrative Silk Route in the year 1766. An old evil now sails aboard a company ship, hoping to make a home in this newfound land. But he will soon find that the ground along the Indus is an ancient one with demons and legends far older than him himself. Along these savage shores, where the days are scorched and the nights are full of teeth. So what I meant by not loving the setting is the fact that it's set in India, and the fact that it's talking about things like the Silk Route, set in a time where, colonization was, a fabric of the narrative of that land. The fact that it's, Indian culture, and it's talking about stories and sights and sounds that, I don't know, have a deep part of my upbringing and, a deep part of my history. But the fact that it's quite political, which generally I'm And political in the sense that it's talking about warring nations and, different conflicts, which is not a criticism against the book itself. It's more a personal thing that I tend not to have a head for those kind of things. And the fact that it's like a vampire story, which, I don't know. I don't have an inherent love for that kind of story. I think I like generally more down to earth, more naturalistic, more humanistic stories. But I think what Ram V is doing with all of these elements is, I don't know, it's bold. I think to find a way to write all these stories together I'm quite inspired by it. And this is the reason I want to read it as a trade, because I think I'd be able to get more of a sense of an understanding of the conflicts and political machinations, which I generally find hard to follow. And I like that under the surface of this story about warring nations and like warring individuals. So there's this idea of a demon coming to a land where there's darker demons and deeper nature than his own evils, if that makes sense, and being chased by somebody who is there to purify that kind of evil entity. I like under the surface of all of these things are the themes of the effects of colonization on a land and what it means for, like, colonists to have their own ideas of what they want from their machinations, and it being independent of the people who live there already and the things that they're coping with and the things that they're fighting against. And there's a lot of layering, and I think I need to read it through a couple of times to really get my sense of it. What I will say is the artwork by Sumit Kumar and Vittorio Astone is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I just love this. I don't know, it feels old. There's something about it that just feels like so deeply rooted in the time period, and I don't know, the contrast between the different types of peoples that are involved in this story. I love that it represents people as they are and not just what they represent. So you see, it feels like representative of India and not as cliched India, or not like, well, here now we have to portray a particular thing that you've come to expect from these type of people. I feel like it's all very natural and grounded and comes from a deep sense of, like, knowing the history and knowing what it feels and sounds and smells, and how all that is, which, I don't know, it really clicks something deep inside me that I really like. And, like, all the costuming and all the the hair and the faces and the skin tones, and it all just feels really nice and diverse, and I really admire that. And just then the colors are amazing, like these awash with strange nightscapes, like everything's suffused in this dark purple and blue, which, I don't know, brings a very different vibe to the evenings, the nighttime scenes, as it does to, like, the oppressive heat of the daytime scenes. I really like it. I think I'll talk more about it once I've had a chance to read, I'm assuming, what will be the end of the first arc, which will be like issue 5, I guess. But I'll definitely revisit this, and I think I'll have more thoughts on it at that point. So that's These Savage Shores.
Yeah. You got a list of credit for us there?
I did. I gave it at the top, but I can repeat it. So that's
sorry.
No, it's cool. There's any excuse to plug these people more than once. Writing by Ram V, illustrator Sumit Kumar, colors by Vittorio Astone, letters by Aditya Bidikar, and it's published by Vault Comics.
I blanked at the start when you gave the names before.
That's fine.
But yeah, that sounds really cool. And that's like the second Ram V book that you've talked about.
It is in a row, and
2 subsequent episodes, yeah.
Basically, because, like, I picked up Graffiti's Wall just because I'd been following it. I noticed it at Thought Bubble, and I believe I'm sure he must have been talking about These Savage Shores there as well, but that wasn't the one that caught my eye. And then recently, I've had some communication with Vault Comics just because I donated some money and they gave me some comics in return. And because they had a few delays, they threw in a couple extra comics that I wasn't expecting. And one of them was These Savage Shores. And I'll be honest, like I may not have picked it up on my own, so I'm really glad that they sent me this because I don't know. I think I'm generally drawn towards things that look quite cute, look quite. I don't want to use the word simple, but like have less dense narrative to them because I think I come to comics to get away from prose generally, and I think in this comic, Ram V is doing a very like prosy sort of writing. There's a lot of writing in it. There's a lot of literally letters writing that forms the like the narration happening over the comic. And again, it's not a criticism of the comic. It's more a thing that appeals to me less. But I'm really glad that it was put in front of me and I had an excuse to read it. I'm really enjoying it, and even if I ignored all the words and if I ignored all the plotting, I love the artwork and I love the story that's being told frame to frame to frame. Like there are some sequences which are done in like quote unquote in silence without any wording over them, and there's some really smart, especially like in the first issue. There's a really cool sequence right off the bat where this vampire is being chased by a vampire hunter, and you see the 9-panel structure as it goes from top left to the right, and then as it hits like panel 6, your eye instinctively is drawn downwards, and then you start following it backwards. So like the character dives out of a window on the right hand panel into the left panel, falls into the bottom left corner, and then runs back off to the right. And there's just
this kind of
really
like snaking panel layout.
Yeah, definitely, but it's not done. Like the framing and the guttering still remains quite rigid, but it uses elements within each panel to draw your eye from one to the other. And then in this particular sequence, it's like an outside scene split up into 6 boxes because of the guttering. And so if the gutters weren't there, it would be, a big rectangle image. But the way that it's cut up gives you that sense of flow. And there's some really intelligent use of, I don't know, motion and framing and pacing, and it's quality. I really recommend it.
Sorry, I was going to say you just instinctively follow it that way because it's the way that the panels are drawn, and I love it when comics do that, when they do something interesting like that with panel layouts and like with page design, and it's just a treat. Like, I mean,
it's art. Like, that's the thing where sometimes you don't even realize that your eyes are moving, but that's the techniques that the artist is putting into it. Like the storyteller is saying the story needs to go this way, and then the artist shows it, portrays it in that way. It's good merging. And like, there's another comic we've read fairly recently that it reminds me of that, and I want to use that as the pin to get you to read these books. What was the other one that was set on a boat, and it had like a mutiny, and
Shanghai Red.
Yes, there's parts of it that feel like Shanghai Red, because some of it is set on a boat anyway, because it's about this vampire like on this boat traveling to this new land. But I think if you like Shanghai Red, you would dig the same sort of vibe and same sort of art style in These Savage Shores.
I do want to give it a go after you've talked about it, because I have a soft spot for Creatures of the Night. I think
out of the three of us, I think on the face of it, this would appeal to you the most. I think of all the things I've mentioned lately, I really want you to read These Savage Shores.
I will give it a go. Cool. 100%. It does sound like my thing.
It really is.
But yeah, it's it just sounds really cool, and like, you've got me on page layouts now, and like I'm just thinking of like some of the really cool page layouts I've seen like this year, and like some of the great examples I've seen, and it's like people really upping their game and really really like going with this like, intuitive layouts that instinctively draw your eye in ways that you wouldn't normally have thought about reading a comic, and in ways that you wouldn't normally see a page laid out in a comic. And it's really cool when you open a book and you get something new and different like that, and it's kind of like a little thing that you want to save and hold on to, because I love that kind of stuff. I love it when I mean, one of the best examples for me was in Multiversity. the Pax Americana part, which is kind of like the Watchmen riff, which I've talked about. I think I've talked about it before on here. But that, especially, like, some of the page layouts and some of the panel layouts and the way they work the panels in that book is just mind-blowing. And yeah, I love it when I see stuff like that, when I see examples of like interesting, cool panel layouts and page layouts and things, like the thought that must have gone into that design, and for it to, the fact that it just works so well, and that your eye is instinctively drawn that way, and that they've tapped into that somehow and managed to get that to you on a page, like that's craft right there.
Yeah, I think it's the same part of just art in general that I admire about, like, I think I've talked about this about certain video games where I'm not a sandbox gamer. I don't really like being made to make my own fun. The reason I play a game, the reason I watch a film, the reason I read comics is to be entertained, for like the artist and the creator to give me the thing. Don't make me do the heavy lifting. Don't make me do the hard work. I don't necessarily agree with this in comics entirely, because like the metaphor with gaming is like, I can't really play sandbox games where I'm supposed to make my own fun. I want you to create a scenario that I have to play through, and then I want to go through that design. I want to play through your design. I want to play through your world. I want to play through your mechanics and see what you were trying to communicate through all of that. I really like being led on this journey. The thing about like panel layouts and, you know, the thought that goes into understanding the psychology of reading, and like being able to anticipate where somebody's eye is, being able to draw their eye to a particular thing, being able to draw what they understand as a satisfying sequence to follow. Because I think that's the thing that I love about those kind of games where you follow a sequence and you play through a sequence. It's that satisfying beats. I think that's the thing that connects with comics in this way. Like, I like seeing the energy and effort and creativity and like just, you know, just effort that's gone into constructing it and trying to appeal to somebody else. Like, you're trying to make somebody else feel the thing that you as a creator have in your head. And that's not to say that there's not a place for things where you do have to do some of the heavy lifting on your own, where you have to construct a scene where, you know, the creator might deliberately leave you a little bit confused or unsatisfied so that you have to take some of the mental energy on yourself and piece it together. Like, so I think recently Mr. Miracle does that occasionally, where you're left feeling, even though it's quite a rigid framing structure, even though the gutters are quite straight and like follow the 9-panel structure, there are times when you're left feeling just out of place. But that's done with consideration, because, you know, you like, they're trying to make you feel uncomfortable, they're trying to make you feel lost, and so that you have to put in the extra mental energy to work it out. And yeah, I don't know, I just like seeing creators put energy into their work to lead me down a place.
Yeah,
I just don't like thinking for myself as well. I want to have it all fed to me.
It's cool. I like it. So yeah, I should move on to my final one, I think. So my last one is another new number one called American Carnage, which is on Vertigo Comics. List of credits for this one at the top. We have Brian Hill, the story, Leandro Fernandez, artist, Dean White, colorist, Pat Brosseau, lettering, Ben Oliver for the cover. We've got a variant cover by Rafael Albuquerque and Rico Renzi, and Maggie Howell is assistant editor, and Andy Core is the editor. And this is published DC Vertigo. And it's... the way to describe this, it's a story of an undercover ex-FBI agent turned PI hired to investigate a prominent philanthropist with ties to white supremacist extremism. Now, in that way, it kind of has echoes of films like BlacKkKlansman and another comic that's been discussed on this cast, Incognito. Because this is an ex-FBI agent who is black but is able to pass for white, and therefore able to kind of infiltrate what's going on with this prominent philanthropist, and that was kind of why his sort of like ex co-worker sort of like chose him for that role. So it's, I mean, like where Black Klansman and Incognito are kind of based on, or have like more, I mean, all of these are obviously influenced by real life events. But this story, it feels all too real because it is set in today's time, and it's set in the time and place we're in now. It's set today, and I think that's what it taps into really well. It's an excellent crime and political intrigue thriller that taps into the very real threat of something terrible that has once again bubbled up to the surface, and its connection to the current political climate. I mean, it's not just in the US that we've been seeing a rise and in extremist groups rising to the surface again, getting bolshy, and having renewed confidence because of the current political climate, and because of the way things have swung with like nationalism on the rise again, things like Brexit and the fact President Trump got elected, like the big pink elephant in the room. And it's just given like kind of renewed confidence to these kind of like these fascist groups, these racist groups, and these kind of like extreme right wing like collections of horrible people. And that's kind of like what we're living in, and this kind of draws on that, and it is a story that kind of fits within that, and that's what it does well, and that's how it draws you in tight, and how it gives you this kind of how it seeds you with the fear and the tension that is seeded throughout the comic. It kind of hinges on the fact that this is something that's happening here and now for me. So yeah, it's a great thriller, and the writing is excellent, and the tension on each page is incredible. It is communicated perfectly, not only through words, but also through the body language for the characters in each panel and the facial expressions. And these characters are alive, and they wear their feelings on the surface. And this is Leandro Fernandez. So this is the guy that did The Old Guard with Greg Rucka.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he did an excellent job on that, and he's doing it again. Another excellent comic that we're seeing here, and his artwork is really bringing it to life, and it's his use of perspective in this book, and in some of the panels, the application of a slight universal warp. So with perspective, in perspective terms, this warp I'm talking about is almost like seeing things from a lowered fisheye, but like not just a shallow fisheye, not like a full like bulbous fisheye lens kind of effect, but just kind of like a shallow fisheye around things, just to slightly warp it, just to slightly give it this kind of like dark twist, and this kind of like to kind of close you in and kind of give it this kind of claustrophobia a little bit in places where you would need to where the tension is increased in specific parts of the book. And the way that the way that this warp is applied to his characters, like the slight lean towards cartoon features, but it's still rooted in stark reality. It's not over exaggerated. So that slight cartoon warp gives everything a kind of like nightmare edge, I guess. Which works well for this. Like the way that he's displaying that in this book is just like for the story that's being told and the tension and everything else, that just works really well. And it really draws you in tight and closes the focus onto the distilled tense atmosphere that is being constructed by the words and by the story that is coming up in this. And it's just, that is just what sells this book and what makes it work so well. I love this kind of story as well. This like the what Vertigo are doing at the moment, which is this Vertigo Renaissance that's happening, where these titles that have been published on the label, things like Border Town and stuff like that, it's kind of like bringing these issues into the forefront in a way that is digestible, and a way that, you know, kind of like, this is what's happening, you know, like this is kind of the kind of stuff that we're dealing with right here in reality right now. And I quite like that it's bringing it to a way that's bringing it up in a way that's digestible by people that maybe wouldn't normally I don't know,
not normally seek it out.
Yeah.
Stories.
Yeah. It's like bringing it up in a way that's digestible, and bringing it up in a way that's universal, that people can look at and people can take away from. And like, as on that note, I kind of want to rescind some of my negative comments I made about Border Town before, when we've talked about Border Town, because as blunt and as uncomfortable and as angry as it is, I think upon reading the subsequent 3 issues from the first one that we discussed, that kind of is its charm. And that's what it does well, because it appeals to the youth of today in that blunt, angry and uncomfortable way. So
I was going to say, to both of our credits, when we did talk about Border Town, I think that is what we expressed. Like, I think I said it wasn't. Yeah. It was presenting a story that, like, I have no problem with being told, and it sounds like this comic is similar in that way. Like, it's more power to you for having, like, because all stories, you know, so many stories have been allegorical, despite what people may want to try and say. You know, stories should be political, comics should be political, whatever. I think it was more that the tone wasn't for me, and I think you said the same thing. Like, I don't know, just the tone didn't gel with you, but that doesn't mean that you don't think the story should be told. It's just it wasn't for us, really. But then 3 in, the tone is gelling with me. That's cool. I'm glad that you stuck with it.
It's kind of it's like it's shown. It's like, well, you know, I'm blunt and I'm uncomfortable and I'm angry, and this is what I am, and this is what it is to be in the world. Blunt, uncomfortable, and angry is what we have to be in order to fight this. And in a way, it's kind of right. You know, this is kind of how it is. And American Carnage is it could be it's really, really good at showing this in a more, I guess it deals with the same things that, I mean, Border Town deals with things at a level that, you know, as we've discussed, that would it would appeal to like teenagers, young people that are, you know, full of anger and energy, you know, and this appeals. This is a little bit more grown up. But it's still really good, and it's still really good at telling, at showing the current climate we're living in, and being a story set within that, and telling this tale, and highlighting the issue of race. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and I mean, it's something that I'm going to stick with, and I'm going to read the rest of, because I think it's a really good thriller, really good crime political intrigue story that I'm quite into. So I'm quite getting on with it, and the reveal at the end of the first issue was really cool as well. Okay. As in, like, that's the hook that's going to get me to want to know more as this guy gets deeper and deeper and deeper in with what he's in, you know, like kind of digs below the surface of this squeaky clean philanthropist who, I mean, everyone knows there's something iffy about him. Like, they know there's something off about him in this story. But the Bureau won't pursue it, so the FBI agent has gone to the PI to kind of get something done about it. And it's this whole kind of like, there's a bit of closing ranks there as well, I think, with the way the FBI treat it, and they're like, we don't want to investigate this any further kind of thing, and all that stuff. Like, the government, like, this goes high up, and this is going to go high up, I think, in this comic. So I really like that. So yeah, that was American Carnage #1, which you can pick up now. And I think you need to read this one as well, Ray, because I think
it does sound.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like my kind of thing. I think I'll give it a chance. Yeah,
give them both a go. This and Middlewest. I think you'd enjoy both.
And I think Bordertown as well. Now that you've told me that you've enjoyed the first 3 issues, I'll get back in that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of Vertigo titles that are coming out now, a lot of these new Vertigo titles that we're seeing, this renaissance that Vertigo's going through, they're kind of an outlet for these kind of for this kind of like anger at the world, and they're kind of like a for the way the world is and the way that's making people feel. They are an outlet for that, and they are a way to get these messages out and to get these messages across, and that's what they're doing now from the looks of things, and I quite like that, this Vertigo renaissance that we're having right now. So yeah, definitely. But Ray, I guess we're at the end of your list now.
Yeah, so the last comic that I read this week, is called 24 Panels. It's something I spoke about on a previous pull list. It's the anthology comic which was made to support the PTSD needs of the survivors of the Grenfell fire, which happened in June 2017, killed 72 people in a 24-story tower block in West London. It's a really powerful book. It's an anthology done by, I believe it's 12 established creators of comic books, and then 12 contributions from other artists. And I think there's a focus on them being from the UK, but it's not clear, who's a who's. Also, the way that the book is arranged, the credits for each individual comic aren't necessarily attached to the story you're currently reading. And like, I don't know what to really say about it beyond it's very touching. Like it's deeply touching about how it's taking the story of this tragedy, and every story that is written, like obviously a lot of them are very sad. Some of them are quite funny. All of them are deeply moving, and it's how you can take a story that revolves around something so deeply tragic, and every single one of these finds a way to hinge on the positive, to hinge on the idea of community and unity, helping your neighbor, helping lift each other up through crises. And I don't know, every single one of these had some way of touching me, making me feel like I wanted to be better to my neighbor, or allowing me to understand, just a different perspective on how you can feel isolated or misrepresented by the people around you, like people wanting to think that you're something because of the place that you live in, people wanting to assume something about you because of the way that you look, and this this traumatic idea of being just misrepresented. And so I wanted to basically pick out a couple of, it feels weird to say favorites because they're all stellar, frankly. They're all very good at expressing empathy, just like leaping off the page. But there's a few that I wanted to just highlight. So there was one called They Say, which is written by Alex de Campi, pencils by Rose Stein, inks by Ted Brandt, and colours by Triona Trefarrell. And it's talking about, how we talked about panel construction and how, it takes so much energy and effort and creativity to guide your eye across a page. I think the thing about this comic is it's called 24 Panels, and I believe to represent the 24 stories of the Grenfell Tower block. But the point is to constrain the stories to have a maximum of 24 panels. And I think when you're constrained in the work that you can put out, it really brings out some really interesting creative ideas. So They Say is one of these where it starts off as a portrait page on this young girl and her cat eagerly awaiting her mum to come back home from the shops. And I believe, like, it's written as though this young girl, who must only be like 5 or 6 in the story, but is written from an adult's mindset, about how she's saying that these people think that our home is a bad place. They say that the streets are lined with burned out cars and that all the people here are criminals and drug addicts. And then what it does is it turns the page over into landscape mode, and you can see like the face of this community block where there's like 4 or 5 houses stacked on top of each other as flats, and we see an expression of what she hears other people saying about all the people who live in this housing block with her, and all the nasty things they say and all the poor assumptions they make about the people who live there because of the way they look and because of the way they dress or the way they perceive them as behaving. And then it goes on to show the inside of this same block and the true lives that are happening inside these individual rooms. And it was just really touching. It was a really interesting, creative way to, I mean, not somewhat bluntly make this idea of how your assumptions aren't the same as the reality. But it's, I don't know, there's just, because of the way that comics, like you say, have this power to bring you into this environment. And it's just, I really like that one. I thought it was very touching. Another one called Dream Job by Liz Lunny, which is basically a choose your own adventure book, choose your own adventure strip, which is the exact opposite of the thing I was talking about earlier. So it's very gamified in that it's drawn like I said, a choose your own adventure where you start off on this this one panel and it's introducing you to this new job that you've joined into, and then you have to answer questions back and forth. And I think it's just a I don't know, a happy story about being satisfied with where you are currently. And I don't want to spoil where it goes. There's one called A Little Hope by Dilridge Man, which is a beautifully sketched black and white a silent comic about a woman who is lying on the sand at the on a shore, on a beach. I don't know how to describe this. Like, in pain, lost, isolated, on her own, struggling to get up and work her way through this thorny forest. Like, picking herself off the beach, walking through this forest where everything is causing her pain, falling off a cliff and then landing on these stones, and again trying so hard to force herself up, use her own energy to lift herself off the ground. And then she's really struggling, she can't quite make it, and then a bird comes, picks her up, very gently from the back of her t-shirt, lifts her, lands her back on her feet, and then she has the energy to walk on forward. And it's called A Little Hope, and how sometimes all it can take is somebody giving you a little lift to get you through your day. And I thought that for something that was expressed without words, I thought that came beautifully off the page. There's one called People Like Us. So one called People Like Us, which is the stories by Joanne Stera, art by Lynn Yoshi, and letters by Comicraft. And again, constrained by the amount of panels that she had access to writing the story, but also a really interesting use of like two colors that are graded between each other. And it's a story about a Jewish woman who is telling a story about when she was younger, having to write an online course on the Holocaust, and she was partnered with a woman, or a young woman from Austria whose grandfather had been an SS officer. And like the instinctual reactions and anger and somewhat levels of arrogance, and I don't know if arrogance is fair, but like the things that you feel based on the people that you're partnered with, and being forced to engage with somebody who you assume to be an enemy, and the things you project on them because of their history, and having to come to terms and learn about each other, and learn that this woman from Austria, who she had an innate desire to fight against, is in the comic in giant letters, surrounded by lights, not an actual Nazi, and having to come to terms with her upbringing and the things that she had to deal with, knowing about her history, and like doing this project together and learning more about each other. I don't know. I thought that was beautifully told, and was taking something that can be quite deeply traumatic and drawing it in quite a sweet and cute way. I thought was really nice. And it's packed full of this. There's so many. Every single story has, or every single I don't know, 1-page story or 2-page story or whatever, whether they use the full 24 panel limit or whether they use just 4, and use the comic concept of guttering and using that to show isolation and fear and hurt and anger and pain. It's just there's so much in this that is just stuffed full of, I don't know, pathos and catharsis, and I really think it's worth a read. It's for a good cause. I think the money goes to charity and to helping those who are affected by the Grenfell fire. And it's also a stunning collection of art at the same time. So I would recommend 24 panels.
Yeah, it is one that I need to read it. Yeah, I've been wanting to read it since I first heard it being talked about, and I saw because Alan Moore worked on it as well, didn't he?
I think in particular you would love the Alan Moore story because it's written like poetry. The art style is something that doesn't necessarily gel with me. It's got this very like 70s political artwork to it. I don't know how to describe it. I don't think I'm qualified to explain what type of art it is. But the thing that his poem is expressing and the way it represents the villains in this kind of story, where the reasons that these kind of tragedies occur could have been prevented by people in power, and how it shows how the good that you do and the evil that you do will be inked on the world. And this sort of, I don't know, modern scientific way of explaining how, or, if it's basically called If Einstein's Right, and how every moment is captured as its own single thing and how those things will remain forever. And it's very touching because it can be that the lives that you're touched by are captured forever. The love that you felt for each other is captured forever. The harms that you do to your community and the harms that you do to the people that you're supposed to be representing and fighting for are captured forever. And it's, I don't know, I loved it as much as I loved the others, but I think I picked those others because I wanted to pick out the ones that touched me more and the ones that had slightly maybe smaller names as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you would love the Alan Moore, and I believe it's Melinda Gebbie, and letters by Hassan Otsmane Al-Hal, who we've talked about in the past. He does Panel X Panel, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Great. That's another great strip. I love every single one of these.
Yeah. Something that I need to read is that book. We are now at the end of our list of recent reads, so we should move on to the pull list. So I'll open up with what's coming on the 5th of December, which is the day that this podcast released. So things that caught my eye from the 5th of December. I think we're kind of similar, actually, looking at your list. I think there's a lot here.
Same ones again.
Yeah, there's a lot that we've picked that is, well, there's a couple that we've picked that are definitely similar. So I'm going to start with like the two that I kind of like eyed that aren't on your list. It's 2 DC books. So we've got like Shazam back in its own comic. I'm not. I don't mean. It's just caught my eye. I think with the recent like the Shazam trailer and everything, the fact that we're getting a Shazam movie sometime soon, I think that's what's brought this back into the public again. But it's written by Jeff Johns, and Billy Batson and his surrogate family, Mary Bromfield, Freddie Freeman, Darla Dudley, Eugene Choi, and Pedro Pina unlock the mysteries of the Rock of Eternity and delve into the secret worlds of magic to discover their ultimate destiny. Is the synopsis. I mean, I've not read an awful lot of Shazam before. The brushes I've had with Shazam have been through a lens of other DC characters and through other DC comics. But it's just something that caught my eye as a new number one for an old character. And the next one's roughly the same because this one is Martian Manhunter. So it's a similar reason. And this is writer Steve Orlando. Riley Rossmo is the artist, and Joshua Middleton has done a variant cover for it. So the blurb for this one: no matter what you know about Johns. I can never work out how to say Martian Manhunter's name, man. That's something that's going to be like a sticking point for me forever. Like, no matter how many comics I read, no matter how often I hear it said in other, but it will always stunt me. It'll always stunt me. Johns. You're not prepared for this. You're damn right I'm not. I'm not prepared to say his name right. The acclaimed team of writer Steve Orlando and artist Riley Rossmo of Batman the Shadow and Batman Night of the Monster Men reteam for a reinvention of the Manhunter from Mars in this twisted, unexpected series. Back on Mars, John was about as corrupt as a law officer can be. And when a reckoning comes for his entire society, he'll get a second chance he doesn't want to or deserve. One shocking murder and an unexpected fragment of the Mars he lost will change his life and the course of Earth forever. So, I'm guessing this is kind of like sci-fi noir detective. From the sounds of it. It sounds quite interesting. May have to give that a look, because I did enjoy Batman the Shadow. I thought that was quite cool. And I'll let you take over, because the next three are ones that are on your list, so you can talk about them.
Okay, cool. So the first one was Die #1. This is a new comic by Kieran Gillen, who I think we've established that we're fans of, from like The Wicked and Divine and stuff like that. Yeah. So written by Kieran Gillen, Stephanie Hans as the artist, Clayton Cowles as letterer. So it's the blurb is, in 1991, 6 teenagers sat down to play a role-playing game. They disappeared without explanation. There were no clues. They had vanished. They were found 2 years later in a forest over 50 miles away. When asked where they'd been, they could only respond, "I can't say." No one ever found out where they had gone or who could have taken them. Everyone was just glad that they had escaped. The year is now 2018. The teenagers are now adults. They're about to discover no one escapes. And as ever, I was drawn in by the cover, which has like a white-haired woman in a black outfit, sort of splayed out. I don't know, like she's been shot in the chest, because there's like these rivulets of like red streaks coming out from her, but it's overlaid by a sequence of triangles, which I think are a flattened out D20 dice or die, which makes sense because like it's playing on the word die as death and the objects you use for playing role-playing games. I really liked that. I thought that was quite cool. So that's Die #1 coming out on the 5th.
And I can vouch for the fact that when you sit down to play a role-playing game, you do lose time. And it is hard to tell people what you've been doing for the past however long you've been doing it.
Yeah, it's great. It works on so many levels.
And it is a flattened out D20, because when I divide it into triangles, yes, it is.
There's 20 of them, right? Yeah.
I think there are,
Okay, so the next one is Killmonger #1, obviously a Marvel book. Brian Hill is the writer, Juan Ferreira. Oh, there's a reason you made me say this one out loud. Juan Ferreira. I'll spell it out. Ferreyra as the artist and cover artist. Larry Straman and also Jason Pearson as artists on this. I have no idea what the actual story is. All I know is that it's covering Eric Killmonger, so I'd be interested to see what they write about that. I'm assuming it's going to be a prequel in some ways to the Black Panther movie.
It is.
And then last one I had for the 5th was Self/Made #1. And that's by writer Matt Groom, Eduardo Ferrigato as the artist, and Marcello Costa as colorist.
Cool. Yeah, that Killmonger one, it is going to be like his childhood and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So... Oh, also, I forgot a last one. There's one that I had no idea they were making. This is Giant Days, where women glow and men plunder, #1. So it's by favorite of mine, John Allison. I love the regular run of the Giant Days comic, but this is the #1 focusing on Ed Gemmell, who now has a girlfriend and is going to meet her family in Australia.
I was going to say, as soon as I don't even need to know anything about Giant Days. As soon as you said the title, I knew that was going to be about Australia. Because I know what that's from.
Yeah, what's that song called?
I think it's playing in my head, but I could not tell you what it's from.
Like we can all hear it in our head, but
Yeah.
I've never known what it was called because I've never actually gone out on my way to listen to it. It's one of those songs that everybody knows but doesn't actually own. I think
The Land Down Under or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my last one for the 5th.
Yeah. So moving on to the following week, which is the 12th. We've got a couple that caught my eye in. I forgot to mention for the 5th, actually, start of the Marvel Defenders stuff, so that's coming back. So we've got Namor, the Hulk, the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer's on the 12th, actually. That was where I was going to lead into, because I was going to talk about the Defenders for the 5th, and I was going to move on to the 12th, but I've just ruined it for myself. So, the Defenders are coming back, which is like an old Marvel team. And this is apparently after to investigate the death of Stephen Strange, according to the blurb for one of these books. But this is going to be like a shared kind of like story across these characters. Each one's going to have their own book, and then obviously it's all going to come together at some point. And we've got Namor, Silver Surfer, and the Hulk. And I think Namor and the Hulk are both out on the 5th of December, and the Silver Surfer one comes on the 12th. Now, other things actually on the 12th that I was going to mention. We've got Outer Darkness #2, which we've talked about previously on this cast. Outer Darkness is really good. We've got the Hellboy Winter Special coming out on the 12th, which is, I mean, obviously we've read Hellboy Winter Specials before. They're really cool. Really nice Christmas tales and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be nice. Another one on the 12th is Snap Flash Hustle #1, which I don't know if was this something that you would picked up on your list, Ray? No. Okay, so Snap Flash Hustle. This is one that just caught my eye. Haley Morey, a downtrodden alternative model, happens upon a secret society of elite models in NYC that are using their platforms to sell narcotics. Seeing a possible escape from a lifetime of crushing debt, Haley becomes involved and works her way up the ranks, making new alliances and enemies alike while getting a taste of power she never knew she craved. In this new stylish crime thriller from writer Pat Shand of Breathless and artist Emily Pearson of The Wilds, nothing is as it seems. So that caught my eye. It's one on Black Mask. So that's something to look out for. Also on the 12th, we've got Mega Ghost #1, which is on Albatross Funny Books. And I'll just read the blurb for this. Can life get any weirder for junior occultist Martin Magus? Living in the haunted city of Dunwich Heights is strange enough for a kid investigating the unknown. But when he comes into possession of a bewitching ring, he discovers that he now has the power to summon Mega Ghost, a giant supernatural robot sworn to defend the world against the creepy things that go smash in the night. So can you guess why I picked that one up?
Yes, I can guess why you picked that one up, Greg.
And the last one on December 12th for me is the Archie Christmas Spectacular, because I've been like going in for these like seasonal specials. I wanted to mention actually that also on the 5th, another one that I forgot to mention for the 5th that I'd picked up especially and forgot to talk about was the Merry X-Men Holiday Special. Which is going to be 25 tales, one for each day in December, about the X-Men. It's gonna
be trash.
It's gonna be great. 25 holiday tales of merry mutants, one for each day of December, one through December 25th. What does Magneto do for Hanukkah? What's Rogue and Gambit's first married Christmas like? Is Jubilee truly the master of navigating malls during the holidays? These questions and more are answered as all of your favourite X-Men and more creators than you can shake a jingle bell at come together for a holiday celebration to last all month long. And according to this, it's 40 pages, which that's got to be a damn lie. Like, how do you squeeze 25 stories into 40 pages? I'm calling bullshit on that. But yeah, there we go. I mean, if they have managed to squeeze it into 40 pages, that's some kind of feat. But yeah, the Merry X-Men Holiday Special, which I'm probably going to buy. So Ray, December 12th for you.
December 12th, I've only got a couple of things. First floppy I've got is Goddess Mode #1. That's a Vertigo comic, and it's by Zoe Quinn. Robbie Rodriguez and Stepan Sejic, maybe, as writer, artist, and variant cover artist, respectively. I like Zoe Quinn generally, so that was the reason caught my eye. But the blurb is really interesting. So it says, in a near future where humanity's needs are provided for by a godlike AI, it's one young woman's horrible job to do tech support on it. But Cassandra Price's life changes forever when she discovers a hidden digital world beneath our own, one where a group of superpowered women are locked in a secret war for the cheat codes to reality. So that's when I realized that Goddess mode was a gaming illusion, so like God mode. And yeah, it looks like really vibrant neon comic by Zoe Quinn, so I'll check that out. DC Vertigo comic.
Yeah.
And then following that is Cream Man Vol.1-2, since I talked about it earlier. Really good time to jump in on these stories if you haven't already. Volume 2 comes out on December 12th, and it'll cover issues number 5 to number 8 of Ice Cream Man.
You know what? I'm going to give you some homework, Ray.
Okay. Oh, God. Okay.
You're going to read that X-Men Holiday Special.
I'm sure I will. I'm sure you'll nag me enough to make it happen.
I'm going to give you some homework. You're going to read that, and for next episode, we're going to read Nuclear Winter as well.
I already have Nuclear Winter. I didn't want to talk about it because I haven't finished it, but I've read the first few stories, and that's massive, man. That's like a triple size floppy.
It's 80 pages.
Yeah, 80. That's a lot. I was going to say I'm only going to read the X-Men one if it is only 40 pages. I don't want to read a single page more than 40 pages of that.
Come on, indulge me.
Fine, Greg. Since you're ill,
yeah,
it'll make you feel better.
We're going to talk about Christmas comics next time. So yeah, there we go. That has been the pull list for the next 2 weeks, and I will now close us out. So that has been Ace Comicals, episode number 50. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals, where you can send us questions and via DM, or you can at us in a reply, and we will be able to answer those for you on the show. We can be found to listen to on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Castro. You can find us on Instagram under Ace Comicals. You can send questions to acecomicals@gmail.com. If you so wish, you can donate the price of a coffee on our coffee page, which is coffee.com/acecomicals. All contributions will be used to defray the cost of hosting the website. You'll be helping to keep the lights on. You can find me on Twitter under @Batto, that's BATTOU. Ray, where can we find you?
On Twitter at Monkeh, MOONKEH.
So that's Ace Comicals, over and out.